Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this completely timeless fable that honestly just cuts right to the core of how we value our own lives. It's all about the trap of comparison. And, it's really going to resonate deeply with anyone who's ever, say, scrolled through social media, looked at a peer's highlight reel, and felt just a little bit inadequate. It's a super simple story, but the wisdom packed inside it's absolutely profound. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever caught yourself looking at someone else's life, their job, their house, their apparent total freedom, and you just think, wow, they must be so much happier than I am, right? It's that classic super modern feeling of FOMO, the fear of missing out. We totally convince ourselves that everybody else has it all figured out while we're just kind of stuck, struggling in the mundane, everyday stuff. Keep that exact feeling in mind, because that is exactly where our story today begins. Imagine a small ant. She lives in this quiet little village, right down by the really deep roots of an old, massive tree. And, well, every single day, she is just absolutely miserable. She sits on this stone, literal tears streaming down her face, just completely overwhelmed by her own perceived insignificance. She looks around at the vast, giant world, feels painfully small, and she assumes absolutely no one values her existence. To her, her life feels completely, totally without purpose. It's heartbreaking, really. So as she's sitting there weeping, an old, incredibly wise fakir, basically a wandering ascetic, just happens to walk by. He stops, sees her crying, and very kindly asks her what's wrong. When she pours her heart out about her profound sorrow and feeling so worthless, he just smiles gently, and he drops this profound truth that we honestly so often forget. He tells her happiness is in your heart. You have to learn to be happy in every situation and value yourself. But, let's be real. When you're trapped in that kind of deep sadness, advice like that goes right out the window. It falls on deaf ears. The ant just keeps right on crying. Seeing that his wise words just aren't cutting it, the fakir takes a deep breath and offers her something crazy, a magical wish. He asks her, what would you choose to be if you had a second chance at life? Well, instantly, her eyes light up. No hesitation. She says she wants to be a colorful butterfly, dancing on flowers, admired by literally everyone for her beautiful wings. The fakir agrees to grant this wish, but he's clever. He sets a condition. He tells her, I'll turn you into a butterfly, but first, you must go ask the butterfly why she is so happy. Basically, he sends her on this grand quest to investigate this supposedly perfect happiness. Let's move along and see how this builds, because this sets our little ant on an incredible, constantly escalating journey. She's going to bounce from one idealized animal to the very next. We're talking from the beautifully elegant butterfly to the highly productive bee to the wildly free rabbit, and finally all the way up to the soaring bird. She is on a full-blown mission to validate her own assumptions about what a perfect life actually looks like. Now, what's really interesting about this part of the story is how fast the ant's assumptions are just totally shattered. She finds this stunning butterfly fluttering on a flower, praises her beauty, and totally assumes her life is pure joy. But the butterfly's reality, it is shockingly different. The butterfly looks at her so sadly and reveals this intense, paralyzing anxiety. Yes, she's beautiful, but her lifespan is terrifyingly short. We're talking just a few days. She lives in a constant state of dread, always terrified that her time is quite literally about to run out. And it totally doesn't stop there. The butterfly tells the ant that the bee is actually the one who has it best, because the bee actually creates useful honey. So the ant scurries over to the garden to find a bee. But when she asks the bee about her supposedly incredibly fulfilling, super productive life, the bee is just as miserable. She works herself to the bone day and night, only for people to just come along and steal her honey. She feels her hard work is ruthlessly exploited, and she lives constantly under the heavy threat of being harmed. So the bee, totally exhausted and feeling completely unappreciated, tells the ant that the rabbit is the one who is truly happy. Why? Because the rabbit gets to roam totally freely through the green jungle. The ant dashes off to find the rabbit, fully expecting to see this picture of ultimate carefree freedom. But man, the rabbit is frantic. His reality is one of sheer survival and pure panic. His ears are constantly twitching. He struggles every single day just to find food, and he lives in this relentless, agonizing fear of hunters. What looked like idyllic freedom to the bee is actually a perpetual state of running for his absolute life. Then the panicked rabbit points the ant to the bird. He claims that the bird, who gets to sing and fly high up in the endless sky, has got to be the happiest of all. So the ant climbs up this enormously tall tree, finds a colorful bird singing a beautiful song, but when the ant asks about its perfect life, The bird literally breaks down in tears because even high up in the sky, life is incredibly difficult. The bird is endlessly searching for food, perpetually being chased by predators, and living without even a single moment of true peace or rest. And this brilliantly illustrates a really profound truth about how we view others. Just look at all these hidden burdens. We constantly crave the beauty of the butterfly, but we completely ignore the fear of fading. We want the productivity and usefulness of the bee, totally ignoring the sheer crushing exhaustion. We desire the boundless freedom of the rabbit, ignoring the terrifying vulnerability. And we wish we could just soar like the bird, completely blind to its absolute lack of peace. Every single idealized life the ant encountered was secretly carrying a massive, completely invisible weight. But here is the absolute peak of this journey. The weeping bird, having literally traveled the whole world, looks down at our tiny protagonist and drops a massive revelation. The bird says, "I actually think ants live the best life. They stay busy in their own world together, no one bothers them, they're completely safe." I mean, wow. Think about that for a second. The very creature who seemed to have the absolute most freedom, soaring high above everyone else, actually envies the tiny, supposedly useless ant. Mind-blowing, right? Hearing this, it's like a brilliant light just ignites right in the ant's heart. She suddenly gets it. She turns around, rushes all the way back to the old fakir down at the roots of the tree. Her eyes, which remember were once full of these bitter tears, they're now just shining with realization. The fakir asks her what she's learned, and she excitedly tells him all about the hidden struggles of the butterfly, the bee, the rabbit, and the bird. And then she confidently declares that she wants to remain exactly who she is. She is finally completely cured of her feelings of worthlessness. You know, this fable perfectly mirrors our own lives, doesn't it? We spend so much of our time looking outwards. We look at other people's careers, their relationships, those perfectly curated social media highlight reels, and we just automatically assume they are so much happier than we are. But the reality is, just like the bird looking down at the ant, those exact same people might be looking right back at us. They might be secretly envying the peace, the stability, or even the simplicity that we completely take for granted in our own lives every single day. So the absolute crucial point is this. The life you currently have, the one you might even consider totally boring or completely insignificant right now, might literally be someone else's ultimate dream. You really have to love your own life because true happiness, it doesn't come from finally getting what someone else has. It lives entirely within your own heart. I want to leave you all with one final, kind of provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. Look at your own life right now, with all its weird little quirks and quiet moments. What is something you have that someone else might be secretly wishing for? What are you truly grateful for today? Just take a moment, find that happiness in your heart, and really hold on to it. Thank you so much for joining me and exploring this incredible story today. See you next time.